Hi guys, I'm here with your story for today. I got this one out of the funny section. It's called Highway to Heaven by Al Boyce. Hey, this is pretty good, he said, taking a second bite of the apple. Yes, she sighed, and we weren't even supposed to eat stuff from that tree. Who knew? Wait a minute, he stopped chewing and looked at her. Where did you get this apple? You know, that big tree in the middle of the orchard, she began. Never mind, he shouted. Grab your stuff. We're out of here. And don't let the flashing swords of the cherub hit you on the way out, boomed a scary voice. Like the original Bonnie and Clyde, they loaded up their car and took off for, well, God knows where. It's been a heck of a road trip. We were barely underway when Cain took out Abel in a drive-by shooting. Then there was the stint on the pontoon boat during the flood that the Weather Channel never saw coming. Out of luck and out of money, we coasted into Egypt. What a mistake. Who knew a set of new tires and transmission could be that expensive? We'd have been working off that debt forever if it hadn't been for Moses and his fancy debit restructuring scheme. We did feel bad for Pharaoh, though. Then MapQuest totally screwed up, and we spent 40 years wandering the desert. Of course, none of the men would ask for directions. The Promised Land turned out to be more of a way station than a destination. We just weren't made to settle down. People would start partying, then some crazy flood or plague would come along and knock sense into us until the next time. We really tried to stay on the road, but it seemed like there was always an enticing side trip. That big new theme park off in the interstate, or the casino near the Indian reservation. In fact, that's kind of what we thought was going on that night the star lit up the sky, and all the shepherds showed up in their minivans packed with goodies. Another diversion. What was before Big John showed up with a front-end loader, graders, dump trucks, and announced the new bypass. His idea was stunning. Build the biggest, fattest highway ever. Dozens of lanes wide, totally flat and straight. Even the mountains were knocked down as he prepared the way. It was a major project. Took almost 33 years. And you know, funny thing is, all lanes got the same direction. It was the most expensive project in history, too. Then they started talking about how it was going to be a toll road, and we just about lost it. There was no way we would be able to pay the toll. Still, it was the only way forward, the only way to get where we needed to go. So we lined up to see how much the toll was going to be. That's when we got the biggest surprise of all. The guy who planned the project, who bankrolled it all, who brought in the workers and the graders and the mills and the miles and miles of concrete, he decided to just write it off and let everyone use the road for free. A trip is a little different now. We're making pretty good time, considering we don't know how far we have to go. We don't have to spend as much time worrying about maps and directions, but there are new things to consider. Yesterday we picked up a hitchhiker. Today we helped a woman whose car had been broken down. Several of us had decided to travel in a group and share food, as well as our experiences. One other odd thing. It was kind of dark when we started out. Now it seems the farther we go, the brighter things get. And that was Highway to Heaven by Al Boyce. Hey, that was only 4 minutes. So I guess I can go try to find you guys another story. I don't know about that. A lot of them in the funny section say they're supposed to be funny, but they're really not. I don't know what this one is, but Confessions of Anti-Martha. We'll try it out. It's by Jan Ackerson. I think we've read some of hers before. Jimmy knew he was proposed to me that he wouldn't be getting a typical pastor's wife. No piano playing, for example, and there's nothing except the audible voice of God that would induce me to teach Sunday school. The thought of hosting a ladies' tea makes me break out in hives. I don't care about any of that, Nicky, Jimmy reassured me often during the first years of our marriage. I just need you to support me and pray for my ministry and love the church people. Well, it's been a pleasure to do those things for Jimmy and for God. If the Women's Missionary Guild gasped when I attended meetings in hot pink capris and a t-shirt that read, "Someday my prince will come," they soon adjusted. I like to think I won them over with my charm. Still, there is a certain amount of work that must be done, and I've tried to be a good pastor's wife, practicing hospitality, for example, when I'd rather be writing another chapter of the next great Christian novel. I've developed some shortcuts over the years. Just call me the Anti-Martha. Here are some of the ways that I've survived my life. House cleaning. Closets are my friends. Happily, I have one in every room. When Mrs. Potsliff calls to say that she'll be by in 10 minutes with 6 boxes of quilt squares for Africa, I open the closet doors and start tossing. When my children were little, they were very enthusiastic about having visitors if it involved what I called the closet game. Also, my living room was several inches way too small. Portable pieces of furniture. I moved them often to cover any new splotches or stains. Jimmy occasionally trips over a newly repositioned end table. He just chuckles. Did you have company today, dear? Ironing. When Jimmy needs a wrinkle-free shirt for the trustees meeting and his dress shirts have been sitting in the dryer since Tuesday, I don't panic. I simply run the shirt under the basement faucet until it's slightly less wet than the surfaces of the prophets of Baal. Then I run it through the dryer again for 20 minutes. Sure, I could iron it in 5 minutes, but that's 5 minutes better spent with a cup of coffee and Max Lacudo. Gardening. Isn't it lovely to have our own fresh produce to can and freeze and preserve? In short, no. Here are 2 of my favorite words. Grocery store. Yes, I could plant tender young tomato seedlings and weed them and pick those horrid fat green tomato worms. I could spend several afternoons in a sweltering kitchen with a pressure cooker and 5 dozen mason jars. Or I can buy a can of delicious tomatoes for 79 cents without all that preparation. Furthermore, it happens every year. Every family in the church experiences an abundance of garden-grown tomatoes and peppers, and God help me, zucchini. Jimmy likes to say that they tried to pay his salary in vegetables every September. Eventually, we have to beg people to stop being so charitable. Baking. This hasn't come up often. The mother-daughter banquet committee knows that Dottie makes the best cakes, but the year that Dottie had surgery, the task fell on me, and my creation was a big hit. I went to the kitchen supply store and bought a platter big enough for 2 turkeys. Next stop, the supermarket. For an assortment of small snack cakes, Little Debbie, bless her soul, has several varieties of cakes with various icing designs. I spent a few minutes artfully arranging the desserts, making lovely patterns with the icing. The resulted cake was as extravagant as a parlor floor game. The ladies are still buzzing about the cake. I could go on and on. Pins for gift wrapping, paper bags, centerpieces, dandelions in a jelly jar, clothing repair, masking tape, safety pins, buy new. Last night, Jimmy sat beside me on the couch and handed me a bowl of fresh sliced peaches. I was suddenly aware of the cluttered living room. No Mrs. Pottsworth that day. I'm sorry, hon. I guess I didn't do much work today. Jimmy rubbed my neck. Do you do any kingdom work? I thought about the devotional I'd written for the bulletin and the coffee I'd shared with my lonely neighbor June and the dozens of prayers I've launched Godward. Well, yes, Jimmy, I sure did. We finished the peaches in happy silence. And that was Confessions of Auntie Martha by Jan Ackerson. And now we're up to almost 11 minutes, so we're going to stop there today. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. I love you guys, and God willing, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.